Good evening. It's Saturday the 19th of November and it's time for the news on RIK2. Shortly before his afternoon departure from Switzerland for crucial talks with Turkish Cypriot leader Mustafa Akinci, President Nicos Anastasiades said he was determined to work towards a settlement of the island's division. After individual meetings with party leaders earlier in the day, Anastasiades also said that these were particularly productive and discussions were creative. Any disagreements, he added, were within acceptable limits, and it gave him an opportunity to hear thoughts, concerns and suggestions. The president is in the Swiss resort of Mont for 2 days of talks with Akinci in a bid to strike a deal on the thorny issue of territory. The two leaders were engaged in 5 days of negotiations in Mont between November the 7th and 11th. Asked if the two sides were close to a deal, the president said he would have more to say on that on Tuesday. Anastasiades expressed the hope that a comprehensive proposal for the solution of the Cyprus problem would soon be ready to be brought before the people for approval. Turkish Cypriot leader Mustafa Akinci left Nicosia for Switzerland for a second round of crucial UN-brokered negotiations on the territory issue, criticising both the Cypriot and Greek leadership. Akinci said he was concerned over statements made in Nicosia and Athens aiming at postponing a 5-party conference on Cyprus that the Turkish Cypriot side wants to take place within this year till 2017. Akinci also expressed concern over the Greek side's apparent attempt to set conditions as regards the high-level conference on Cyprus, during which the divided island's 3 guarantors, Greece, Turkey and Britain, will also take part. The Turkish Cypriot leader believes Athens has demanded that only the very thorny issue of security and guarantees comes under negotiation at the conference, and that pending issues from 4 chapters that have already been discussed and satisfactory progress was recorded but require further negotiation should also be raised during the conference. At the same time, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan last night held a telephone conversation during which the Cyprus problem was also discussed. All hospitals in Syria's besieged rebel-held eastern Aleppo are out of service after days of heavy airstrikes. This is what the World Health Organization has said, even though a war monitor said some were still working. The WHO representative in Syria said a UN-led group of aid agencies based over the border in Turkey had just confirmed that all hospitals in eastern Aleppo were out of service. However, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Britain-based war monitor, said that some hospitals were still operating in the besieged parts of Aleppo, but that many residents were frightened to use them because of heavy shelling. Medical sources, residents and rebels in eastern Aleppo say hospitals have been damaged by airstrikes and helicopter barrel bombs in recent days, including direct hits on the buildings. Health and rescue workers have previously been able to bring damaged hospitals back into operation, but a lack of supplies is making that harder. Tens of thousands of protesters marching under the banners of unions and leftist groups have blocked traffic in Argentina's capital to pressure the government into increasing subsidies to the poor. The country continues to suffer through a prolonged economic recession nearly 1 year after President Mauricio Macri's centre-right administration took office and instituted market-friendly reforms. The reforms aimed at boosting Argentina's competitiveness and taming rampant inflation. Macri has largely maintained the generous social problems he inherited from the previous populist administration of Cristina Fernández. But his relations with unions and leftist social groups have been tense because of soaring consumer prices. Hundreds of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets of Seoul today in the 4th straight weekend of protest against embattled President Park Geun-hye. Park is resisting calls to step down amid an ongoing political crisis in which she alleged to have let an old friend meddle in state affairs. The scandal has rocked Park's presidency and united Koreans in disapproval, culminating in a protest last weekend that saw 1 million people march on Seoul by some estimates. Today's protest was smaller, as protest groups also organised demonstrations in regional capitals. Police said at least 155,000 people had packed into a central Seoul square for a candlelit rally, but organisers said the number was 500,000. And now a look at the weather. Clear skies in the morning, gradually turning overcast. Winds will be light to moderate, easterly to northeasterly, force 3 to 4 over moderate seas. Temperatures will rise to 22 Celsius inland and in coastal regions and 11 over the mountains. The fire hazard remains high in all forest areas. That's all for today. Join us tomorrow for more news in English. Have a very good evening.